a lot of misconception. A lot of people think that you can get an IUL and you can become your own bank. In a sense, you can borrow from yourself, but it's not structured like an infinite banking product. So I want to make sure that we can simplify it a little bit more for the individuals listening. But the main difference is going to be the interest earned and the dividends credited. That's going to be the main difference. But also, this is the infinite banking is built on a old school cash value whole life insurance. And the numbers look a little bit different because of the way that it's structured. Again, the average person wouldn't know that, but that's why I was asking the team, like, what do you think is the main difference? Because with an IUL, you have a larger death benefit. You have cash value that's growing, based on the premium that you put in. But with the infinite banking, you have somewhat of a larger death benefit, but it's not really structured for the death benefit, so to speak. What I mean by that is with infinite banking, you're going to have a smaller death benefit. They're going to attach a term policy to it, but that term eventually will fall off. But the main reason for structuring them is completely different.
I was just going to just piggyback on what you guys were saying that, both strategies offer, unique benefits depending on what the client's financial goals are. So if they're looking for market link growth and flexibility, then the IUL might be the way to go. But if they're interested in creating a self-sustaining financial system and want guaranteed growth, then the IBC using whole life insurance would probably be the better fit.
Right. You're absolutely right. And that's what I was about to go into, knowing your client. Because you can know everything about the products, but knowing your client and knowing which product fits that client is going to be the biggest thing in your sales career. Because a lot of people think sales is sales. I'm just going to sell anybody anything. But if you don't know your product and you're not taking the time to learn your clients and figure out what fits their needs, asking the right questions. My first client, her purpose was future. So IUL was the route to go. Infinite banking, if you got somebody that needs immediate cash, liquid, infinite banking. You said it without saying it. You gave an example, but you're absolutely right. Going back just a step before I get into this illustration, if you don't go through all of those things, you'll end up putting the policy on somebody that doesn't fit with their ulterior goal, what they're looking to accomplish. So the biggest thing is going to be making sure that your presentation is airtight. And it doesn't have to be scripted to a point where it sounds like a robot, like somebody else that recited it. But you want to make sure that your presentation is relatable and that you're asking enough questions because the agent that talks the most of the time lose the sale because we can talk too much. We can cripple our clients with what they call analysis paralysis. So you don't want to put what you've learned to get your license on a client. You want to simplify it and dumb it down to a bit to where they can understand what you're trying to get across, but you can also get everything that you need in case that client is ready to move forward. What I mean by that is one, the needs analysis is going to be your biggest thing. We have forms for that. You can also create your own based on, learning what you need to gather for the client. But you want to do a needs analysis, making sure you're going over medical history, asking those health questions about, what are you taking, building that rapport. So you can work all of these kinks out before you get into the application. I think a lot of salespeople, biggest problem is they come to a client, they give them a quote, they jump into the application without getting to know the client, without actually figuring out what they need. Um, because we coming from final expense, you have a lot of people that are on fixed income and they may not be able to afford, certain coverage amounts. So you got to talk to them long enough and figure out, what exactly can they afford? What are they looking to accomplish? I'm going to take it back a little bit. Do you want to be buried or cremated? That's a huge question because that lets you know how much money they're looking to have left behind. If that's the purpose of the policy, if it's just burial, then that's that. If it's one of these, if it's an IUL or infinite banking, and you ask that client, okay, what is the purpose of this? How can I help you get to your goals, your financial goals faster? If the purpose is for retirement, then you got to dig a little bit deeper, figure out what that person's finances is like. If they want to dump some money in initially, um, what does retirement look like for that person? Perfect example. If they're working right now and all of their monthly expenses total 6 grand, Now, you know, at retirement, they're going to need at least 6 grand or more monthly to live comfortably outside of retirement, right? So those questions will help you get to the solution, because once you build that rapport, once you ask those buying questions, you find out if they got family, you know, if they're from here, if they're married, you know, you get all of that information for the application. Those are going to be your beneficiaries. That occupation, that employment, annual income, that's going to be on your application. If they drive, you're going to need the driver's license for these applications. All of these things are buying questions. So once you get through that, closing a deal is just your delivery and what you've come up with based on what that person needs. Because a mortgage protection client is not going to need an infinite banking unless they have money up front to kind of dump into it. It wouldn't make sense for everybody to get an infinite banking. And I think that's the basis of this call. Everybody would love to have an infinite banking after they hear about it, but it just doesn't fit everybody. It's kind of like shoes, and I'm about to let you jump in right now, Glee said. It's just like shoes. Could you imagine going to the shoe store and all they have is size fives, but you wear a
Oh,
size nine? You can't force a nine inside of a five. So each policy, each insurance product that we offer fits a specific person for a specific need. So you just got to know your products for that. But Glee said you had a question.
It was not a question, it was more so a comment about also the process after you've made that choice. When you decide on infinite banking versus IUL, it's my understanding that the infinite banking underwriting is a little bit more intense. It's longer. And even the amount of coverage can be less than what you would give them on an IUL. But because of what it offers, they're more strict and the process takes longer. And I'm saying this personal experience because I started the process to see what it looks like because I think I'm going to go and get one for myself. And I started over 2 months ago, and we're still waiting on on what's with approval and what's that going to look like. And I'm still in my 30s, so I think I'm pretty young. So just know that if it would have been an IUL, then it probably would have been approved within a week or two. And my husband and I have been waiting over 2 months. So it's the process is longer. And if they really want to become their own bank and they really understand the benefits, then it's worth it. But the expectation has to be clear from the beginning, because if not, then you're going to lose that client because the turnaround is not as fast as an IUL and especially a term. That's what I got.
You're absolutely right. I like what you said about the expectations has to be clear from the beginning. But go ahead. I think Sharnetta had your hand raised first, and then Tara.
Yes. So we said we have not talked and we need to talk because girl, our minds are thinking the same exact thing. I was just about to say, and yes, you are super young and gorgeous, so let me add that. But I was gonna say the same exact thing. The expectations have to be from the beginning. You have to inspect what you expect. Noah, you said something in there. Is it because of suitability? Absolutely. Everyone's gonna want to get infinite banking, but can you afford? And also, is it in the best interest at this present time for you to get that? And so here's some of the things that I'm going to post this too in the chat or in probably on Telegram. Some of the things that I have been coming up with outside of this just to figure out how we can really get to the deep root. You guys know I'm all about analogies and I'm all about dissecting the problem at hand. Even if there's not a problem, I always think of what if, right? And so the first I'm going to say is the initial consultation. Sometimes we think that the sale is going to be one time close, and it's not that. You have to continue to have these conversations throughout the next couple weeks. And sometimes it may take a month or two. I've heard Unique, I've seen a couple of people online, YouTube, who was like, man, even Unique said I talked to a lady back in September of last year. And then this year in February, he closed. How many months is that? September, October, November, December, January, February. That's 6 months as this person sat that on their brain. So the initial compensation, you have to start by having initial consultation with your clients. And this should be done either in person, over the phone, or through online meeting. And during this conversation, just like Josh stated, you have to ask questions to understand their personal financial situation, their goals, and the specific concerns that they may have. Because remember, this is their problem, we're the solution. 2, you have to have fact finding. Okay, conduct a fact finding process, just like Noah just added. Hey, do we have something like this? No, but we're creating it, right? To gather detailed information about your client's financial situation, including their income, expenses, their assets, and even liabilities. This helps you assess their current financial needs and their obligations. So now you kind of know, can they afford it? Can they not? You kind of got to get in their business, right? But the fact finding is where you're going to know, okay, just by speaking to a client, he wants to book on my calendar, you want infinite banking. No, you have to do the fact finding. And then personal documents. Because here's the thing, sometimes you can't just go over what people are saying. So you have to request the personal documents, which is why I don't think, if you guys remember, we had a call about 2 months ago. And I said, hey, on the landing page, because I have a landing page that doesn't even have my name on it at all. And people are going onto that landing page, and they're giving us their information to see what they may qualify for. And then I suggest all of you guys do the same exact thing. Get that questionnaire and send that questionnaire to your client. But then also in that questionnaire, ask them to request documentation to forward to you in a PDF. Okay, you may request certain documents from your clients, such as tax returns, bank statements, insurance policies if they may have, and investment statements. These documents can be provided anywhere. Financial arrangements do they have to help you better understand where your clients' needs are. And then there's also a risk assessment. Because I don't think sometimes we understand that, where we're so excited about seeing the client and talk to the client, we don't actually take time to even do a risk assessment to see if it's something that could be a risk for them in the future. What is their retirement planning looking like? Do they have a 401k that's in place? Right. And so risk tolerance, and by discussing their comfort level of potential risk and losses, we have to know their comfort level, which means at the worst month of the year, right, or the best month of the year, which sometimes people say is Christmas, can you afford this even at that time, to avoid any chargeback on your part, but then to also avoid any harmful, situation that your client may have to go through. And this helps you determine the appropriate coverage amount that the client should invest in and that you should recommend for them based on doing that risk assessment by their comfort. And then, of course, then you go back to your market research. Once you have 1 through 4 already taken care of, that's 4 already, then you conduct a market research, which is, okay, what is the latest insurance products that I offer, the policies, what is trending right now, because it's on social media. So they're asking for an IUL, they're asking to become their own bank. They're trying to get the two together, but they're still two separate things, right? So that's when you do the market research on what will be best for your client. And then 6, I think is the most important one, is the collaboration, right? The collaboration with other professionals, such as, accountants, financial planners, Josh, Unique, financial situations that are long-term goals for your clients. Get them on the call with someone else to edify you. This is why I love how CORE is unique. And I'm going to ask you guys, once I get off, does anybody know what CORE stands for? Because I want to make sure that you guys understand and remember what CORE stands for. It's not saying you need any help with the presentation, but what it is saying is that it's edifying you and the product that you're offering your client, and it shows that you're doing your due diligence to get a second opinion. Anytime you go to the doctors, remember, we talked about this, we are doctors of financial planning, right? So anytime you go to the doctors, if you hear something you don't think you agree with, or even if you might agree with it, you're just like, you know what? I want to get that second opinion, right? So you don't want that person to go from, and we have Advent Health here on Arnold Palmer, right? They're 2 different hospitals, 2 different doctors, 2 different situations. You don't want them to go to another hospital, right, or another IMO to ask them other questions, because now they're hearing what they think, and they're thinking in typical times what's better for their pocket. But if they hear from somebody that's on your own team and says, wow, Jocelyn, that's a great idea. I think in this instance, I would say going through the IUL would probably be best for your client too. You was spot on when you said it. Then the client's like, well, wow. And then you do suggestive selling via Zoom, not in the head. Yes, absolutely. Because now we looked through this, we went through the needs analysis, we went through the risk assessment, right? Went to the personal documents, we did fact finding, we know the product that we want, and now you have the collaboration from someone else that's on your team that sees it. And I'm not saying you have to split the policy with them, but what I am saying is to give yourself edification so your client doesn't say, "Oh, you know what? You told me it's 250. I'm going to see if I can reach out to someone else and I'm just going to get another idea." And now they're completely ghosting you because they didn't see the collaboration to edify the market and the product that you offer them. Okay? And then by combining these methods together, you can gain understanding of your client's needs and provide them with the suitable life insurance options that will align with their financial goals and risk tolerance. Remember, you have to show them that if you don't have this, what is the risk? If you do have this, could there be a risk in the future? Can you afford this? So there's so many different aspects to this, but I think it's a great idea to break it down and dissect it. So thank you, Lisa, because we was spot on what you were saying, and I think that most of the time we're just trying to sell when we can get high end clientele just by going through these protocols. So thank you.
I want to say one more thing, of course. Thank you. You said clearly what is their max they're comfortable with, and that also is key with this scenario that's been presented, because the IUL does offer some flexibility on the max you can pay and the minimum. So if a client says, like right now, Josh has an illustration right in front of us, and it tells us what's the max that they can pay and what's the minimum to keep the policy in force, right? It doesn't lapse, which in clients terms you don't lose it and gets canceled. But in infinite banking, that number is not flexible. That number is basically set after you've signed your policy and have agreed, this is the number I'm going to pay, this is the commitment. So those two things are also important when we're deciding where we're going to sit them, right? Because once they commit to a number, then that's the number. If I'm not mistaken, I might be wrong. Josh, you can
No,
correct me, but that's what I
no,
think.
no, you're right, because it's two different products. You build IBC with whole life, and of course IUL is universal life. That's why it's flexible. But you're absolutely right. Tara, go ahead.
Okay. Thanks, Josh. And everybody who's commented. I just I just wanted to say, I'm looking not quite here. Well, I just wanted to say that even with the IULs, I know Lisa had said earlier that with her situation, it's taken a couple of months, but the IUL that I just literally had issued yesterday, in March. I submitted it in March. So whether it's an IUL or if it's the infinite banking, it still could take a while, the process. So I just wanted to clarify that.
No, you're absolutely right. And that was another reason why I wanted to get into this, because we all have our little roadblocks that we run into. And these calls and you sharing your experience and me going through this, it helps someone else before they get to it. That's the whole purpose of it, to shorten your learning curve, because you're right. It doesn't matter. Both of them can be lengthy. But the importance of, when you're going through a process to submit an advanced market piece of business, you want to make sure you got all of your T's crossed and all your I's dotted. You got that person's doctor's information. That's why I said make sure you go through the needs analysis, the financial information, the financial inventory, like Sharnetta just stated, going through the medications. Make sure you get all the information that you can in the beginning, so that way the underwriting process is smoother. The more information you got on the front end, the faster the underwriting. But sometimes you're gonna run into clients that are like, hey, well, no, I don't take anything. I don't do anything. And then it's gonna come back. So I'm really straightforward with my clients. I'm like, hey, my job is real simple, is to help you. If I'm not helping you, I'm hurting you. Um, so I need you to be honest with me, so that way I can give you my honest feedback and my professional opinion. And it works most times, but of course you still have those people that withhold information. But with these type of products, you definitely want to make sure going into it that you got everything you need. Now, if you go through a needs analysis and you see that the person is not financially fit for this type of product, don't try to push an IUL down their throat, because it's going to hurt them in the long run. pivot to a whole life or a term policy, something that's more cost effective. And then once their financial situation gets better, then you're their agent for life. Well, supposed to be. That's how I look at this business. You're their agent for life, so you're going to be there to change it when they need to change it. But again, if you don't help them in the beginning and you don't do this the right way, you're setting them up for heartache and frustration in the future. So that's why it's really, really important that you understand those product situations, because you can tell based on the client that you're talking to what type of situation you're going to be in. This person comes to you and they say, "Oh, I have AFib and I go to dialysis and I have sleep apnea." You're not going to go and put them through an IUL because you know they're not going to qualify for it. So that person will automatically be a guaranteed issue. Or if you run into somebody that, may have diabetes, but is controlled, and they also have, diabetes, no, I said diabetes, high blood pressure, and let's say, um, water retention. That's probably going to be a final expense person. They may qualify for an IUL, but it's slim because it's three or more medications. So you want to make sure you're being conscious of who you're putting in these situations and when to offer the right products. But this illustration I got pulled up, I'm gonna keep it real simple, just for math, easy math and understanding. This is a John Doe application for a 30, let me go back, 36, I believe. And I'm just using this example because I just was having a conversation with a client. So this is let me go back, 36, 39-year-old male, and they want to put $400 in this policy. Now, look at the difference. You got $400 going in. This is great. $4,800 a year. In the next, let's say 15 years, this individual has about 100 grand saved. By retirement age, 65. That's $231,000 this person has saved, $400 a month. Could you imagine how much money this individual will have if they just put $400 in the bank account? Not as much. So these are really, really good vehicles to help people with a supercharged savings account that's going to grow interest on their money a lot faster than their traditional bank. Your bank is going to give you 0.1% on your money. You park $10,000 there. At the end of this year, congratulations, you got $10,001. With this type of plan, if you put your money somewhere, of course, the way it's structured, because the cost of insurance is not accumulating for the first couple of years, but once it begins to accumulate, you see how fast the money goes. So you're going to get anything on average between 6 and 10% annually on your IULs. Now, let me run the report real quick so that way I can show you guys this benefit. Then now I can pivot to the IBC so that way you can know the main difference. Now, the biggest benefit to why people get an IUL is the living incentives that comes attached to it. Automatically, when you take out one of these policies or you get one of these policies on your clients, it comes with a bonus, your life insurance death benefit. So with this $400 that the client is spending, they have a natural death benefit of $454,000. And I love this illustration because it's colorful, it's in your face, it shows the client exactly how their money's going to move over the years prior to even doing the application. So it's really attractive for the clients. But the living benefits that I mentioned is they're going to have a death benefit if they die tomorrow, if they die too soon. If they need cash in the future, like I just explained, they have a cash savings nest egg, if you will, that's going to be there in uncertain times or in the event of an emergency, or if they need funds to maybe just want to take a vacation at retirement. 69 years old is $300,000 there. Go take a vacation for a couple of months and disappear, right? But if they become ill, terminal illness is going to pay them almost that whole death benefit, about $400,000 lump sum. If it's a chronic illness, this benefit is going to turn into a cash faucet that's going to pay this family around $7,000 a month to keep the lights on because now they can't perform normal working duties because they're injured, they're sick, or they're hurt. Same thing, critical injury and illness is the same $365,000 lump sum death benefit to help with medical bills and whatever immediate care needs to be taken care of. And also, if the person develops Alzheimer's disease while this benefit is in force, almost $350,000 that goes to the family. Now, you guys notice that it's not the entire death benefit, right? This 450,000, they're paying out a large, substantial amount. So that leaves a little bit of money left over just for the death benefit, for the burial. But these living benefits pay out and they dissolve most of that death benefit, leaving just enough to cover last minute expenses, final expenses, if you will. But that is the benefit of having one of these plans, because you have growth over the years, guaranteed income, whether you want to use it to just pull out, to borrow from yourself. This is where the misconception comes from, but being your own bank. Because people think because you have a savings, you have a nest egg, that, oh, you pull the money out in your own bank. It sounds catchy, but it's a different concept. This is for long-term growth. This type of plan is going to be for long-term growth. It's going to be for long-term savings and accumulation for that family and for that client. So when you're talking to families, just let them know that this is that type of benefit that's going to be there when you need it, whether for retirement or whether you want to plan for your college, your kids' college savings. You have this cash vehicle that's going to accumulate that money over time. And whenever that child is ready, say your son or daughter is 5, by the time they're 21 or 25, you got a couple $100,000 there. You can say, hey, daughter, hey, son, here's money down for you. Here's a down payment for your first house, or here's a graduation gift. I bought you a car. Whatever that gift or whatever that looks like in the future, that's what these type of plans are for. Now, any questions about the IUL before I take this same $400 and I put it on an infinite banking? Anybody?
No.
Okay, perfect. Just wanted to make sure. Now, let's go over here to infinite banking and let's build this illustration right in front of you guys so you can see what the difference looks like. Both really, really great products. But again, you got to know your client and you got to know your products so that way you can position them for what fits their needs.